Good evening, everyone. My name is Shane Foley. I'm a lieutenant with the Impd Public Affairs Office. I'd like to welcome everybody to our first of 6 town hall meetings. The way this will work is we'll have an introduction by the mayor. Chief Randall Taylor will then provide some insight and give a welcome and introduction. And then Commander Ron Hicks from Southeast District will give a short presentation. But the focus of this is really going to be on the community. It's going to be answering your questions, hearing your feedback, getting your insight. This is recorded, so those who aren't able to attend, we'll post this on YouTube and on social media. And then hopefully we'll be able to get additional questions in the future. If we can't answer questions today, we will be sure to follow up with those down the road. So with that, I'd like to start off with Mayor Joe Hogshead. Mayor?
Well, thank you, and good evening to all who are virtual and on the call tonight. I am currently at home preparing for what may be our first winter storm coming up later in the week. But I wish I was able to join with you virtually. I'm glad I'm able to at least offer welcome to tonight's Impd Southeast District Community Meeting. I want to begin by thanking Commander Ron Hicks, thanking our entire Southeast District officers, and frankly, the entire staff of our public safety personnel who are joining with us, whether by phone or virtually, for tonight's conversation. And a particular thanks also to the members of our Southeast Side community. The truth is that by attending this meeting electronically, you play an active role in building a safer and a better Indianapolis. For the second year of this pandemic, each Impd district will host a community meeting just like the one we're enjoying this evening. That's because we believe a more community-based approach best serves the cause of public safety. Said somewhat differently, no one knows the neighborhood of our community better than the neighbors themselves. And that belief has guided every major policy decision we've made in the recent years. So in 2022, 2023, 2024, the city of Indianapolis will be investing more in public safety and anti-crime, anti-gun violence efforts than we ever have before as a city. That amounts to over $150 million over a 3-year period. And that investment being made always with a community-first ethic in mind. $45 million of investment in grassroots anti-violence organizations, neighborhood-based, community-oriented organizations. That $45 million also includes investment in 50 total peacemakers spread out all over our community, in and around Southeast District and all 4 corners of Marion County. 35 of those peacemakers started just this past Monday. That $150 million plus in investment also includes $30 million dedicated to mental health access, mental health treatment, plus millions to job training, to reentry services, and more. And that also means equipping our IMPD officers with $9 million in up-to-date upgrades to technology, and it also includes adding 100 additional sworn police officers to IMPD's rank and file. So, at risk of filibustering, let me just say thank you again for joining all of us at this pivotal time for public safety in Indianapolis, for participating, for caring, for communicating, for offering your wisdom, your experience, your advice. Thank you for your attention and for your continued commitment to the long-term well-being of our community. Indianapolis's best days, Indianapolis's very best days are yet to come. So with that, I'll be pleased and proud to hand it over to Chief Randall Taylor, the Chief of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Thank you for all of you who have tuned in. This is a little bit different, but hopefully nothing will be missed on it. Really glad to get an opportunity to talk to you in our first of 6 different district town halls per se. And that number may go up depending on how well this goes and what we hear from the community. First, let me just say thank you, a shout out, if you would, to all the fantastic men and women that are out protecting you right now. Those who got off shift, those who are working the street now, and those that will come on later on this evening. I bid you greetings from the approximately 1,650 sworn officers that the IMPD has that are out here trying to protect and to make your life better. So last year was difficult for this community in a number of ways. It was difficult for our officers. No bones about it. It was a bad year from the standpoint of homicides and non-fatal shootings and murders that existed. One of our biggest goals is to hear from you in an effort to help those numbers to go down. Unfortunately, this year, those numbers are down a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see, obviously, as the year goes on, what those numbers end up being. As I've said before, we would hope that people would make decisions not to pull triggers and to pull knives, not to commit those crimes. I think our next best effort, though, is if they do that, we're going to try to get them off the street as quickly as possible. So I will tell you one of the things that I'm probably most pleased about this year, or ending up last year and then already this year, is the fact that we've had a number of community members that have really come forth, stepped up, and helped us with a number of cases and getting some arrests made. There's a quote that Martin Luther King gave that I always thought was fantastic. He said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." No truer statement than Indianapolis right now. But fortunately, I think we're seeing a turnaround in that. We're seeing people that are stepping up and coming forth and helping us. So I will tell you, tonight, very shortly, I'm going to turn this over to Commander Hicks, the commander of your Southeast District. But we'll be staying here. You know, this is for you. We're going to give you some information, but we're truly hoping that this is a give and take, that you will tell us your concerns. What are the things we're doing right? What are the things you'd like to see us improve in? And tell us about what you hope to see happening in your district. Now, I'll already tell you, and you probably already know, Commander Hicks and his people do a fantastic job. But the goal of these is to make sure that we're on track and that we're hearing from the community as to what your concerns are. So this is your meeting. I will stay on. I'll be off camera, but I will be listening in. Myself and Assistant Chief Bailey will be here to answer any questions you may have at the end, as well as obviously Commander Hicks, and we'll go from there. So without any further delay, Commander Hicks, please take it away.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And thank you to Mayor Hogsett for being with us, and Assistant Chief Bailey. And I know several of the deputy chiefs are on the call tonight as well. So I appreciate their support and them being here. Hopefully everybody can see the PowerPoint. I'm just going to go over the agenda real quick. I'll give you an overview of Southeast District, tell you about some of our crime trends, brag a little bit about our 2021 accomplishments, talk about our 2022 priorities and initiatives. And then the main thing we want to do tonight is open it up for questions. So I'm going to run through my portion of this pretty quickly so we can have as much time as possible at the end for questions. So anything that you want to ask or any comments or concerns that you have, please send those in and we'd be happy to answer those to the best of our ability. For those of you that are not familiar with Southeast District, here's a copy of or a map of our district. We're basically the southeast quadrant of Marion County. It's 85 square miles and we have 22 patrol beats within that 85 square miles. And I think with this latest census, we're going to show that we're close to 200,000 residents living on Southeast District now. That's a big increase over the last few years. And it's a popular place to live, and we're happy for the growth that's going on down here. For that 85 square miles and all those folks that live down here, we currently have 145 patrol officers that work the district. They're spread out amongst our three major shifts, day, middle, and late shift. We also have district detectives assigned down here, along with our neighborhood impact section, which is our violence reduction team, our violent crime task force, and our community relations officers. Along with that 145 patrol officers, I have 27 supervisors, including myself, that help manage the district. Some of the current crime trends, I know that the headline every year is the number of homicides and non-fatal shootings that we have. That's very important to us. I know it's very, very important to our community. Even one non-fatal shooting or homicide's too many, and we hate for that to happen. Over the last 6 months of last year, we actually started trending downward from where we were at the beginning of last year. And thus far this year, in January of 2022 compared to January of 2021, we are heading downward again, fairly significantly this month. But like I said, even one murder, non-fatal shooting is too many. So we aren't going to rest on that. We're going to keep working hard to do everything that we can to try to reduce that number. Southeast District robberies are also trending down pretty significantly last year. Our burglaries and larcenies were also down. Two areas of concern is our auto thefts and carjackings are actually trending up a little bit last year and even going into this year. Part of that is I would encourage you, please, if you're going to warm up your car in the morning before you go to work, please lock it if you can. If you've got a spare set of keys, warm it up and lock it. We get a lot of these all winter long where someone goes out to warm up their car and somebody jumps in it and takes off. So if you don't want to be a victim of that, please, I understand you need to warm up your car, but if you got an extra set of keys, please use that. Carjackings, I would advise you to please keep your doors locked as you're driving around. Be mindful when you're at intersections and stop signs, kind of look to see what's going on around you. And then we've also seen a little uptick in arsons. Still overall, we're not getting a lot of those cases, but they were up slightly last year compared to the year before. Some of our 2021 highlights, I said overall, the crime on Southeast District was down a little bit. I think a lot of that has to do with we implemented a new strategy we call it Enhanced Community Safety Initiative. And that was basically taking our traditional narcotics and flex teams, which are our proactive officers who are not assigned to run beats. They come out and kind of take care of problems and work hotspots for us on a daily basis. We refocused those units to concentrate more narrowly on the drivers of violent crime on Southeast District. That was actually a citywide IMPD initiative that the chiefs implemented, and we feel like we've had some really good success with that. Again, we really targeted the persons, places, and behaviors that were driving the crime on the districts. And I'll talk a little bit more about persons, places, and behaviors here in a minute. As part of that, we confiscated over 519 guns last year just on Southeast District. A lot of those are illegally possessed crime guns. We understand that folks have the right to carry a gun, and we're not against legal possession of firearms, but we are against criminals illegally possessing firearms and committing violent crime in our community. We arrested a number of shooting suspects, robbers, burglars, drug dealers on the district last year. We also were able to reduce traffic complaints, especially along our Madison Avenue and Southeast District corridors. For those of you on the call that are longtime South Side residents, you know that the cruising and the drag racing on Madison Avenue and Southeast has been a problem for years and years. We actually got a little bit of grant money last year, and we were able to pay some overtime for officers to work and do some traffic enforcement in that area. So that really paid off. I got far less calls from citizens complaining about that this past summer than I had in the summers before that. So really good accomplishment. I credit our police officers and supervisors for working hard on that issue and having a little bit of success. We continued our community outreach in our neighborhoods, and we expanded our police community partnerships with our businesses and our community groups all across the district. So again, our overall philosophy and strategy within IMPD and specifically on Southeast District is we really embrace the beat policing model. We want everyone to know who their beat police officer is on all three of our main shifts, day, middle, and late shift. We encourage our officers to get out of their cars, get out and meet people. We encourage bike patrols, foot patrols. That was really an emphasis that Chief Bailey and Chief Barker wanted us to do this past year, and we're going to continue that into 2022 is foot and bike patrols. We want our officers to get out and be accessible to our community members. The more interaction that we can have with folks in the community, the better that relationship builds, so that when we do have any kind of issues in our neighborhoods, we've already got that relationship built so that people are more comfortable talking to our uniformed police officers more as people and not just a uniform. Our goals, we achieve those through working hard, working smart, and doing relentless follow-up. And again, we're targeting the persons, places, and behaviors. We're not just going out and making random stops of people, hardworking men and women going to work every day. That's not what we're doing. We're targeting the people who are committing crimes in our neighborhoods. And again, as Chief Taylor said, community involvement is essential in our success. If we're going to be successful, we've got to get the community involved. You know, I've got police officers out here working 24/7, but there's only a limited number of those. So they can't be everywhere and see everything. So we've got to rely on the community to help us be the eyes and ears that we need out on the street to help us solve crimes and prevent crimes. Persons, places, and behaviors. Again, persons, that refers to individuals who are identified as being involved in the commission of serious crime on the district. Places, just like it says, that's identified locations where crime frequently occurs. You probably have heard of those talked about as hotspots. We look at those hotspots. I get data from our crime analysts telling us where the current hotspots are, and our shift supervisors will direct officers into those hotspots to either give a visible presence to deter crime. If they're looking for particular individuals who may be committing crimes, they'll concentrate on that. So that's very helpful. And then the behaviors, again, we look at the behaviors that are causing us to expend excessive amounts of police resources. This could be a problem hotel on the area where officers are getting runs there constantly on drug overdoses or criminal activity occurring on that. Then we'll go over and meet with those, the managers of those locations to try to see what we can do to reduce the crime there. Also, you know, everybody knows the drug epidemic in our country is just out of control. We're not immune to that here in Indianapolis or on Southeast District. So that's one of the big drivers of our crime is illegal drug use. So we spend a lot of time trying to enforce those laws and help people who are addicted maybe beat their addiction. And then our 2022 priorities are really not much different than they were in 2021. Like I said, we started a lot of new stuff. We're just getting started with those, so we're going to continue those. We're going to try to reduce our homicides and non-fatal shootings as much as we can. We're going to continue to our work with other city agencies. The mayor mentioned the violence interrupters. So we're anxious to see how they can help us down here with their expanded role. We're also trying to increase our seizures of illegal firearms. And this past couple of years, we've been really successful in taking a lot of those cases through federal prosecution. So if we make an arrest, we'll look at that and see, is it better to take it locally or try to take that case federally? So where are we going to get the most time for that person who is committing crimes and victimizing our community? And then the big thing, again, I think Chief Taylor and the mayor mentioned, is we're going to utilize emerging technology to enhance our crime fighting efforts. That's crime cameras, license plate readers, our data systems that we're constantly improving. We're going to use all that technology as much as we can to try to help our beat cops be more successful in their efforts to reduce our violent crime. So having said all that, that means that our posture will be that our 3 primary shifts will continue to do their beat policing efforts, try to get out and meet the community, build those relationships that will help us reduce violent crime and improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Our violent crime task force and violence reduction teams are proactive units that can continue to focus on the persons, places, and behaviors that are driving the violent crime on our district. And our local Southeast District Detective Unit is going to continue to aggressively investigate crimes of violence. They take minor assaults, persons injured, that type of thing, as well as going after the property crimes. You know, I probably get more complaints about the burglaries and larcenies in neighborhoods than I do even the murders and the non-fatal shootings. Because nobody likes to get their car broken into or their garage burglarized and their things stolen. So our focus is on the violent crime and how we can reduce that. We're certainly not giving up on the property crime aspect of law enforcement either. And this is one thing that Chief Parker and Chief Bailey really stressed us last year in the mantra for all of our officers and supervisors every day is, what are we doing to address the violence today? That's kind of what we think about every day, and that's where we target our efforts. And having said that, I think it's time to go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments or concerns that anyone has. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If I can't, I know that Chief Bailey, Chief Taylor are still on the call, and if there's something none of us know, we'll figure it out and get back with you. So Lieutenant Foley, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. We got a lot of questions here, so this is great because this is what we're here for, to get your questions. Some of these might be difficult questions to answer, but we want to have these questions because we know these are the community's concerns. Sorry, some of these we may not have answers to and may not apply to us, but I still want to ask them. So the first question we had was, how many people do we have on house arrest in the Southeast District? And maybe don't have that number, maybe an explanation of who handles house arrests and understanding the difference between us and other agencies.
Yeah, honestly, I do not know that number. I know it's a lot. That's another agency that handles the house arrest folks that are on electronic monitoring, usually as on pretrial release conditions. I don't know if Chief Bailey's heard those numbers lately or not, can help me out, but if not, we can find out and post that on our website, what that current number is.
So those numbers are really dictated by the court places people in those positions, like the commander said, usually as part of a pre-trial, but we don't get a breakdown on which district has how many. It's probably something we could find. So Lieutenant, if that's a number that we can come up with, is that something we could throw on the website?
Sure, and we're going to post this video. We could possibly get that information and put that as a comment when we post the video.
Okay.
Next question is, what is Southeast District's percentage of solved rates for murders? I don't expect you to know this question, but since when I looked it up, I was able to figure it out very quickly. I will caveat this that some murders may have been solved since this report was provided. So as of January 6th, the 2021 murders for homicides for Southeast District were 51.9%. There were a total of 27, and 14 of those were solved. There may have been more that have been solved since then, but that's the number that was available as of that date. How can we continue to partner with IMPD to reduce the violent crime trend? So this question came from a member of the community. So how can the community partner with IMPD to reduce the violent crime trend?
Yeah, I'd say just, keep doing what you're doing. Get involved in your neighborhood. If you're not a member of a crime watch, if you're not a block captain, if you're not an active member in your neighborhood group, please do that. Everybody's heard the saying, see something, say something. If you see crime being committed or you see a suspicious person in your neighborhood, call it in, report it. We have police officers working 24/7. They're more than happy to go out and check out any suspicious activity. If it turns out to be nothing, great. It turns out to be nothing, but it might be something. So please get involved. One thing I would encourage too is, we've got a big recruiting effort underway. So if you know somebody that's interested in law enforcement, encourage them to apply to our police department. Or even if you don't know if they're interested in law enforcement, encourage them to check us out. This is really a great job. We need more people from our community here in Indianapolis applying to be IMPD officers. So I would encourage you to do that. Those are some of the ways that you can help us.
I feel like this maybe somebody has a specific group in mind. I'm not sure, but the question is, what is being done to assist, educate, empower, and equip newly formed grassroots organizations in an effort to reduce crime and deter crime?
Yeah, that might be one for the chief. I mean, I know there's grant money out there, and some of that grant money has gone to grassroots organizations here in Marion County, kind of to help us. That it's kind of above my level here on the district, but yeah, we would certainly encourage those grassroots efforts. And you can reach out to me or my staff any day, and we can kind of tell you how to get involved with what we're doing here on Southeast District. We're always willing to partner with anybody who wants to lend us a hand.
So that money that goes to those grassroots organizations comes out of OPHS, Office of Public Health and Safety. That's led by Lauren Rodriguez. So that group is the one that's in charge of identifying which groups are going to get those funds, and then what their training ultimately looks like, and how they report back to show that they're being good stewards of that money as well. So that's an ongoing process. It has been different, with the new monies that have come about. Fortunately, it's not just those grassroots organizations, but there's a lot of times I'd hear from the community that wanted more done with mental health, and there's money that's going towards that as well. I've said before, our officers get training, but it's just that initial training on how to take care of someone that's in need right away. It doesn't go towards training to actually help them in the long run. So we're glad to see money towards mental health coming into the city to help out in those situations as well.
What initiatives are in place to reduce recidivism in the Indianapolis community?
Yeah, again, I think that's part of what the violence interrupters do. They can go out and meet with folks who have been involved in crime recently and try to help them turn their lives around. There's also programs through other agencies in the city to help folks get jobs once they leave jail, so that maybe they have a reason not to go out and commit further crimes.
And also that same office, the OPHS office, has recently hired a leader to be part of the reentry programs. She was just introduced within the last week or so, but I'm sure that she's going to hit the ground running. She comes highly qualified, so hopefully you'll see some things there. And, in seeing these questions about that, we'll do our part maybe to include them on some of these meetings so they can be here to answer those questions for you as well. Their contact information will be on our website, and I believe they have their own website that probably can answer some of those questions.
Question that a number of our attendees have is specifically what is Southeast and IMPD doing to solve the murder of Deter Johnson, who was murdered on January 16th? Are all leads being followed? I'll follow that up with maybe we can discuss what information is shared with the public and maybe why information wouldn't be shared with the public that may look like people may not think that anything's going on when in fact things are happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I know Deputy Chief Adams was on here. I don't know if he's still on here, but he answered some of those questions in the chat. Obviously, we're doing our best to stay up with the family and share what we can. The goal for the detectives, though, is to gather evidence so that they can get a conviction. And because of that, a lot is not going to be shared with the public initially. When the public hears about it, it'll probably be when a warrant's been issued or an arrest has been made, and we hope to see that shortly.
Shane, can I add real quick that this case is a great illustration of how misinformation on social media is contributing to some of the issues that we're having getting this case over the finish line. So we need the folks out there to let our detectives do their work. When misinformation is thrown about and strewn about over social media, it just causes additional issues. It causes it could cause witnesses to be reluctant to provide information. And so just, if you could bring that down a notch, that would be helpful as one way that the community can help us get this across the finish line. And like the chief said, an arrest is only part one. If we don't have the information, the evidence, the witness cooperation to get a conviction, then an arrest means nothing. The family gets justice, the victim gets justice when the person is accountable for their actions. And so our detectives continue to work on it, and they will continue to work on it until it's brought to conclusion. She deserves nothing less. Her family deserves nothing less. And we'll stay on it. So thank you very much.
Commander, do we still have the Marion County Sheriff's Office patrolling on Southeast? And is that if they are, is that helping IMPD?
Yeah, I mean, they don't patrol on a regular basis, but they have come down. The Sheriff's Department has been really good to come down. And if we've got particular hot spots where we're having flare-ups with the particular crimes, they will come down and assist us with some of their personnel to help us. So yes, in short, you may see some Marion County Sheriff's deputies down here working. It's not real often that they do that, and they don't just randomly do it. They do it when they're trying to help us address specific issues.
Along the lines of the Marion County Sheriff's Office, says many neighbors are concerned that the jail will bring increase of crime into the area. Knowing the Marion County Sheriff's Office is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the jail, have there been any discussions between them and Southeast District or more broadly IMPD on the impacts of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had several meetings about the new criminal justice center. Matter of fact, myself and Chief Barker and others are going to be meeting with them again this Wednesday. We really I kind of look at downtown district as an example right now because that's where the jail is currently located. And in talking to Commander Burton and Captain Hessong from downtown, they don't see a large increase in crime or crime contributed to the jail itself. So we're really not anticipating that here on our district. I mean, obviously, there are going to be people released from the jail, and they can walk out. They're free people. They can go over to the Twin area and eat and shop or do what they want. But I think the vast majority of them will probably be anxious to get back home. There's going to be a bus, Indigo bus, that's going to be running regularly from the Criminal Justice Center downtown to the bus depot downtown, and then out to parts all across Marion County. So I think the vast majority of the folks getting released from jail are probably going to get on the bus or get a ride home and be gone from the area. So I'm not really anticipating a spike in crime due to that, but it's something that we're looking at, and certainly is something that we don't want. Certainly, I'd hate to think that we're letting people out of the jail and they're filtering out into our neighborhood, stealing cars and committing burglaries. So I'm not looking for that, but it is something definitely that's on our radar, and that I wouldn't say we're concerned about it, but we're looking at it.
Thank you, sir. What calculus does IMPD use to decide which offenders to transport to jail and which ones simply get a summons? Will property crime offenders still be sent to jail? I think this is more about the discretion of individual officers, but I'll let you go ahead and discuss that a little more.
Yeah, we give that arrest discretion to individual officers, and they look at the totality of the circumstances on which folks they think actually need to go to jail, or which ones they can get by with a summons. We're encouraging officers to do summons as much as possible for a variety of reasons these days, because of COVID, because of transportation, because the jails and the court systems are backed up because cases were delayed because of coronavirus, all those types of things. But really, it boils down to individual discretion of officers. Obviously, if an officer catches an armed robbery suspect or a murder suspect, they're not going to summons those individuals. They're going to be going to jail. We're talking about crimes like shoplifting and those types of crimes. Driving with suspended license, instead of taking that person to jail that night, we oftentimes will issue a summons. So yeah, it's really up to the training and experience of the individual officer, working within the IMPD guidelines to determine what's the best avenue for that arrestee.
Next question is, what is being done concerning the new jail and possible inmate rioting? Will IMPD officers be pulled into handling those issues?
Yeah, again, that's part of what we're going to have the meeting on Wednesday about. We've already had several of those discussions. For the most part, the Sheriff's Department does a really good job of handling incidents within the jail. It would have to be something really, really major for us to have to respond to that as IMPD officers. They can lock the jail down. They have a lot of redundant systems over there that kind of prevents anything from getting too far out of hand. But certainly, if something gets out of hand, as law enforcement officers in this community, we're going to be summoned upon to go over and assist with that. We've also already had conversations with the Indiana State Police to come in and assist if something was to really get bad and we needed their assistance. So we're prepared for all of that. If things got really bad, that could happen, but I think it's pretty unlikely that we get to the point where we're sending IMPD officers into the jail to like put down a riot. Now, the property outside the criminal justice off of their property, that's part of our jurisdiction is on Southeast District. So let's say a car gets broken into on their property, then an IMPD officer is going to go over and take that report. Something happens inside the building, inside the court, or inside the jail, the Sheriff's Department will handle that, those investigations.
Latrice, if you could, I'm not quite sure I understand your question. If you could try to maybe restate that so we could get that question answered. I'd like to share that with the commander, but I'm not sure I understand what's being asked. Next question we have is what is happening? This is probably an example of misinformation that was discussed earlier, but what is happening with all of the Indianapolis missing girls like Michaela Williams? What has been broadcast about the young girls from Indianapolis that have come missing, I think is what's being asked.
I can take a stab at that unless you want to, Chief. All missing person cases are investigated with the leads that are available to us. Every single person that is reported missing, there's a BOLO or be on the lookout information sent out to all the officers, and then the detectives follow all those leads. And the cases are never closed for those that we don't recover or don't come home. And we follow them up with as much information as we can. And we encourage you, the community, if you have information, to report that either to our assigned detective, or you can remain anonymous and call Crime Stoppers at 262-TIPS.
Thank you, Chief. Is there an electronic method to report something that is a non-emergency? In other words, is there a way to send a text message to 311 or use an app rather than calling, using the phone to call?
I think there's some new technology at the 911 center, and we'll need to follow up with the new Metropolitan Emergency Services Agency, and we'll post that in the as you post this video, Lieutenant Foley will get that information out there. We should probably invite somebody from communications on the next meeting too to answer those questions.
What are we doing to utilize individuals with lived experiences such as addiction, homelessness, crime, reentry in order to combat the rising numbers of all of these issues?
Yeah, I would say again, I would point to the violence interrupters that the city's employing now. Many of those folks come from that type of lifestyle where they've been in the criminal justice system themselves in the past. And so they're more easily able to, connect with folks who are having those same type of issues now. So I think that's that's the one thing that comes to mind most readily for me is the violence interrupters and the things that they're doing.
Next question is, how much do the town halls help IMPD in what they're trying to do as far as reducing crime, and in what way?
Yeah, again, I think these, like Chief Taylor said, these town halls are incredibly important because it gives us an opportunity to interact with our community, our neighbors, our friends, our fellow citizens in the community. I wish that this didn't have to be virtual. I wish that we were in a room together because I think that even opens up better lines of communication and we can really have nice back and forth. But with the pandemic and everything, virtual was the way to go with this particular meeting. But these interactions are invaluable. So I hope people take away from this that Ron Hickson, Chris Bailey, and Randy Taylor are citizens and community members. We wear a uniform, but we're regular people like everybody else. We've chosen law enforcement as our career. We want to be approachable. We want you to come up and have conversations with us and talk to us about things. And listen, we don't know everything. We're open for suggestions. We're open for your comments. We may not always agree on everything, but we want those conversations. So this town hall is one way that we're able to accomplish that and have that interaction. So yeah, we think this is a great way to do that.
There's some other questions that have been asked, but let's see, we've got one here. I'm concerned about the Marion County Sheriff's Office no longer transporting arrestees to the jail or to the hospitals as needed. This takes one officer off the street during those times of higher crime. What is the long-term solution? I think it might be helpful to discuss what is actually being done now in terms of does an officer actually come off the street, and then what's the plan in the future?
Yeah. So,
Well,
what Chief, you want to
go
address?
ahead, Ron. Well, I mean, I think it's a holistic question, right? I mean, we knew mid-year last year that the sheriff's office was no longer going to perform that function, and we started our preparations. In preparation for that, we were budgeted for 40 non-sworn public safety officers, of which we've hired 9 so far that are currently in training, and the captains, led by Southeast District Captain Ferklick, is starting the process to sort through another 28 applicants that have applied for that job. And once we get enough hired, then we'll have another class, and those individuals are who we want long-term to provide transportation for prisoners for the IMPD. In the meantime, we are utilizing overtime to staff that function on the IMPD, as well as to help with detention area security at Eskenazi Hospital. Also, members of the department, if they're needed to watch a prisoner who's seeking medical treatment, will do so on a rotating basis. If the person's charged with a serious violent felony and they're going to be admitted to Eskenazi Hospital, the Marion County Sheriff's Office will then take custody of that person at the hospital. So we're working through those issues. I don't anticipate ever giving the transportation function back to the sheriff's office. It'll be a function that's part of our agency now and into the future. The detention area at Eskenazi is an area that we continue to have discussions about with both health and hospital, the mayor's office, and the Marion County Sheriff's Office. So we'll continue to try to find a long-term solution for both IMPD and all the police departments in Marion County.
Thanks, Chief. And I just piggyback on that. This is really nothing new for us. Prior to the merge, IPD officers, we transported prisoners in wagons all the time. I can remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was a young patrol officer, I ran the wagon many times transporting prisoners down to the jail. So it's nothing new. It's new to younger officers because we haven't done it in a number of years, but it's really nothing new to us as an agency, and it's certainly something that we can handle. And I want as many officers as possible out running beats, but if from time to time we have to have an officer working the wagon, then that's just one of the other duties that we do.
Next question is, over the last few weeks, we've seen a dramatic increase in calls or runs to the resource center on South State, often with as many as 15 to 20 officer vehicles responding. What's going on there?
Yeah, so for those of you that aren't familiar with that, at 1404 South State Street, we have what's called the Resource Center. It's a multi-dimensional service provider for children who are having issues, and some of them are have some really bad mental health or really serious mental health issues. Others only have it's more like a foster care situation for them, depending on what part of the facility that they're in. We have had for the last few years incidents that will crop up from time to time where the residents over there will get so far out of control that it overwhelms the staff of the facility and they have to call the police to get help with the situation. So yes, we've put together a very robust plan to go in to assist those workers over there with those issues. Unfortunately, I've had a few officers who have been injured over at that facility responding to those runs, but it's something that we have to do. It's not technically a detention facility like a jail or a juvenile detention facility. It's a residence for kids to get help. So it has been an issue. We're working very closely with the management of that facility to try to get things better. We're also in constant contact with our city attorneys and Department of Child Services to see what they can do to help us with that. They've got new management over there within the last 6 months, so we're hopeful that they can help us make that situation better.
Next question is, when will all of the prisoners, inmates from the jail be transferred to the new CJC?
I believe that's occurred, hasn't it, Chief?
I think there's still some maybe from jail 2 that they're still working on, but if it's not complete, it will be soon, very soon that'll be complete. One of the things I wanted to mention when it brought up about the Marion County Sheriff's Office and the jail is that we have to have some empathy and patience with that office right now. They're not only securing a brand new facility, but they're also still tasked with securing the city county building where the courts currently are. They haven't moved over there, and so they're in three different buildings now when they were usually just in 2. So they are doing their absolute best. And I know Sheriff Forstall is committed to making sure everything goes well. And he's a great partner to us. Lots of communication between us, his team, and Chief Taylor's team. We're working through all these logistics together. But like anything new, there's going to be a little bumps in the road that we will get sorted out. And I have an answer also about 911. You can text the number 911, apparently in Marion County, and put in the information that you need, and they will also respond back from questions. So you just text 911.
Thank you. Next one is a comment with a question. When I called the police, the officer responding asked me who I pissed off. We are senior citizens and we rarely see anyone patrolling the neighborhood. How can we get them to patrol? And I would add to this is, can you also discuss, Commander, the impact that body-worn cameras have had on the agency, or at least particularly on Southeast District?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you don't see officers patrolling your area. We expect our officers to, patrol their assigned beats, and I'm confident that most of them do most of the time. If you have a specific complaint that you have about a specific officer or something that's going on in your neighborhood, please, we have an IMPD Southeast District Facebook page. You can put the information on there, or you can call our office here anytime and leave a message, and we'll call you back and we'll follow up on that. As far as the body worn cameras, I will say, we implemented that. Now every officer and supervisor on IMPD that works the street is equipped with a body worn camera. I think they've been very effective. The system that we chose seems to be working pretty well. We haven't had a lot of glitches with those. I will say, from my vantage point as a district commander, I really think they've served to help both the officer and the citizens be better behaved, if you will. It doesn't seem like the interactions are as confrontational as maybe they were in the past, and I think that's because both the citizen and the officer know that they're being recorded. And nobody wants to look like a jerk, so they try to be on their best behavior and get along and be civil, and I think that's helped. Quite honestly, we've had very few complaints since we've put the cameras in from citizens complaining about officer behavior. And it's real simple now. We used to, ask the officer, what happened. Now we can simply go back and look at the video from the body cam and see exactly what happened. So it's been a very beneficial new enhancement to the way we do policing here in Marion County. And hopefully the citizens are seeing that as well.
Commander, can you share with the community how your officers are holding up? Last year was a rough year with a pandemic and other things that were going on. How are they doing?
Yeah, they're doing well, considering it all. Like Chief Taylor said at the opening, it's been a rough year. If you think of all those homicides and non-fatal shootings that occurred all across Marion County, our officers responded to every single one of those. So a lot of those are very violent, disturbing scenes that our officers go on every day. That can take a toll on our men and women. And, I tell people this frequently that, I worry about the safety of all of our officers. I genuinely do. But I believe we're well trained in what probably I worry about more than actual violence that can be put on a police officer is just the nasty things that our men and women have to see all the time. Sometimes human beings can be really bad to each other, and police officers respond to those calls, and we see those things. So it takes a resilient person to be able to look at that, go home, come back the next day, and do it all over again. So I'm so proud of our men and women. I could sit here and brag on all night long. We have a great police department. I'm super proud of my officers on Southeast District, as I know that the chief and all the chiefs and the other commanders are throughout our entire agency. So our officers have held up really well. COVID hasn't spared us. We've done a really good job, I think, of mitigating that through wearing masks and using hand sanitizer and gloves and those types of things to protect ourselves as much as we can. But we've had a number of cases of COVID hit our police force. And at times it's put our manpower shorter than we've wanted to. We've had to spend overtime money to hire back so that we have adequate personnel to work the district. So then the extra hours can kind of take a toll on our police officers as well. But again, Lieutenant, they've risen to the occasion, and they come to work every day and they do great work. I know there are a number of people on this call right now that I know personally who have sent me notes that they're praying for our police officers. They compliment our police officers on the good work they do all the time. So yeah, it's been a rough couple of years, but I'm super proud of our officers. I think you're muted, Lieutenant. I can't hear you.
Lieutenant Foley, you're muted.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to read a couple of these statements before I ask the next question. Thank you, Chief Taylor, Commander Hicks, and all the men and women in blue who work hard to keep us safe, and please stay safe. From Pastor Holland, thank you for doing this meeting and answering our questions. Keep up the good work. We love you all. Stay safe. Just a couple positive comments there we wanted to share. And the next question is, what is the most effective way to report a house with frequent drug activity? Crime Stoppers only takes anonymous information that assures the privacy of the individual reporting the activity. If providing video and picture of frequent drug use discloses the reporting individual's location, that information can't be collected on Crime Stoppers. So how can someone report information to Southeast District about activity, knowing that they won't be anonymous or completely anonymous, in order to be able to provide the video and photos of that activity?
Yeah, sure. We love those tips, and they can certainly call, if it's Southeast District, they can call 327-6300. And that's our main office number here. They'll connect you to Sergeant Guard or one of his folks, and they can take that information down, and we're more than happy to follow up on that. We get numerous Crime Stoppers tips every month about criminal activity. Drug houses are a big one. Unfortunately, with the opioid epidemic as bad as it is, we have a lot of drug houses in Marion County. But I will tell you this, we look at every single complaint that we get off of Crime Stoppers, or if somebody calls in here and talks to us or emails us, we look at every single one of those. Now we triage them, so the more information that you can provide, the more likely it is we're going to be able to investigate your complaint. For example, if you just call up and say, hey, there's drug dealing going on in the 1100 block of Shelby Street, that really doesn't give us a lot to go on. But if you call up and say, hey, every Saturday night at midnight, there's a white male in a green truck that sells heroin at 1100 Shelby Street, and here's the license plate number, that's a lot of information for us to go on. So those complaints are the ones that we go after first, because that's the most information we have to go on. So if you're going to make one of those complaints, the more specific you can be, the better. So if you've got dates, times, license plate numbers, we're more than happy to take those and investigate those. I will say this too, and I know Chief Bailey was a long time narcotics investigator earlier in his career. Those types of investigations take a while. So if you call in today, don't expect to see some results tomorrow. Those investigations, we've got to do surveillance, we've got to do some investigating. Those investigations can take weeks or months at a time even. So just because you're not seeing something overnight doesn't mean that we're not working your complaint. Those investigations just can take a while. So be patient with us. Keep, calling us if you don't see things fast enough, and we can kind of tell you as much as we can, give you an update on where our investigation is based on your earlier complaint.
Thank you, Commander. We have time for one last question. It says, when working with other city agencies, is there any interest in investing in youth programs, services that focus on educating, teaching trades, etc.? Children, teen, young adults need positive programs to curb the violence.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Chief Taylor doesn't mind, I know Chief Taylor, prior to becoming chief in his former life, he actually ran our community engagement aspect, which is the PAL Club and all those youth activities. So yeah, we're willing to partner. We've got a very active PAL Club and a community engagement office over there. But again, we can't do it all as police officers. So if there's other agencies or grassroots folks that want to come in and help, and if they've got ideas, we're certainly open to those. I don't know if you can add to that or not, Chief.
Yeah, let me say a couple things right quick. So Commander Hicks is right. We can't run everything, but fortunately, there are other groups here in Indianapolis that are willing to teach trades. I know a group, Him by Hers, has a program that they help youth get trades, and I know there's many others. I'm not singling that one out for any particular reason, but we need their help on that end. And then lastly, let me just address this. I see a lot of information in the chat about Ms. Johnson, and from the number of people that are commenting on her demise, I know she must have been very much loved within the community. And I get it. I understand all the concerns that are being put out there. Unfortunately, we cannot share all the information of an investigation of that nature with the public. It would hamper and potentially mess up an investigation. So I know there's a lot coming in. I get your concern. I promise you, we're working that case. Chief Adams and his people are working that case. Hopefully, we'll be able to share something about an arrest at some point in the not too distant future. But I get it, and I'm not ignoring it. I see all the chat about her. It's important to us that we get justice for her and for her family. So please understand that, but we cannot share all the information that I think you want as to whether or not people were interviewed and those kind of things. A lot of times people assume they know what's there, but that's not always the case. So please be patient with us. Hopefully we'll be able to share of an arrest, like I said, sometime in the near future.
And I went ahead and put Detective Stephen Gray is the detective who's assigned that case. If anybody has information, and the family has asked specifically that he is the one who's contacted, so that information is there. I'll also include the number for the homicide office. It's 327-3475. But they can also email Detective Gray directly.
Yeah, but please make sure you're giving information about the case, not just comments on whether or not, justice is being done. These are for serious matters, for information that can lead to a possible suspect. It's not for just comment on the department as a whole or what you want to see done. Use those numbers in that email to give good information that can help our investigators solve that crime, please.
Chief, I'll just add, this is Deputy Chief Kendall Adams of Criminal Investigation Division. I'll just add that we share the concern for Mr. Tarek Johnson. It's tragic. In speaking with Dad this afternoon, I shared our condolences and shared an update with Mr. Johnson on the case. He understands. He is in constant communication with the detective on the case. Additionally, this evening, the late shift supervisor will be giving Mr. Johnson a call to walk him through additional steps that have been taken on the case and where we stand. We feel confident that we'll make an arrest on this. It's just going to take us a little time. And as has already been shared, I would just caution folks about social media and putting information out there that could hamper this case. I think Chief Bailey said it earlier. This family deserves justice, and we want to give that family justice. And I think if you give us time, we're all trying to do the right thing and serve, in the right way. But we certainly don't want to hamper this case when we go for official charging with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. As Chief Bailey indicated earlier, there's two steps to this. There's arrest, which is one, and then there's a prosecution. And there are different levels that are needed to ensure justice. And so we just ask for your patience. Know that we are talking to the family on a regular basis. We're chasing down all of the leads that you send us. However, we feel very confident that we will make an arrest on this case. And so just give us time and let our detectives continue to do the work.
Chief, is it fair to say that we encourage and support awareness using social media on any type of case? Our concern is the use of social media to spread disinformation.
Was that for me?
Yes, sir.
Shane?
I'll go with Chief Adams.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, obviously social media plays a role. It certainly is information that we want to look at, and it certainly leads us in the direction oftentimes, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it can lead our detectives down a path that really just, expends more time chasing down things that aren't real, so to speak, or that are, you know, just alive in social media where they really need to be chasing down actual leads in all these cases. So yes, social media does play a role. It certainly has helped in some cases, but it can also hinder when we're just sharing misinformation, when we're sharing information that is not verified, or sharing information that we believe may or may not be true. Certainly that's a part of it. And it can lead us down a path, but we have to be very careful. You know, if we have a detective that's chasing down 100 leads from social media, you know, that's a lot of time, a lot of man hours trying to track down every one of those misinformation that's put on social media. So, you know, be very cautious about it. If you have information, what we ask is that you reach out to the detective, that you don't try to solve a case on social media. That's why we put the detective's numbers in the media releases that we send out, because we want you to connect with the detective and talk through it directly. I hope that answers your question, Shane.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. A little bit past our time, but I think it's a useful use of that time. Chief Bailey, ask you to close us out.
Well, I'll defer to Chief Taylor for that, but I will say that I appreciate Commander Hicks. His executive team are fantastic, and the officers in all of our districts do a great job. So I appreciate all of them, and I appreciate the women and men of Southeast District and for all they do. Chief?
Yeah, thank you again so much for participating. Hopefully we answered your questions. I imagine there's still some concerns and questions out there. We'll monitor and do our best to answer those. Like I said, this is the first of 6 that we have planned, and if we have to open up for more, we will. But really, folks, thank you so very much for participating in this and sharing your thoughts and concerns and ideas with us. That's what communication is all about. We're here for you, and I believe you're here for us, and we'll get this city where it needs to be. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You have a great evening.